Hey YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Sunday, the 17th of May, just getting ready for the Outsiders broadcast. First Moondog will be a separate broadcast as per usual.
Time now for Outsiders. I'm Barry Cassidy, and you're not. And a special welcome this morning to Sinclair Davidson, Professor of Economics at the RMIT University in Melbourne, Peter Martin, Economics Editor for The Age, and Dr. Lauren Rosewarne, Political Scientist, Melbourne University, writer and social researcher. Morning to you all.
Good morning.
We have a special challenge today. First Dog on the Moon normally finishes this half hour with his guide to modern living, but he's on holidays. So here's the thing. We can either have an extra 5 minutes of chat, or we can play an old dog. That you listeners get to decide this piece of programming this morning. Text us either dog or talk to 0418 226 576.
They haven't heard us yet as to whether we're any good. At least wait a couple of minutes.
There'll be a running poll, all right?
ABC's going to the dog.
I feel under pressure now to perform.
Dog or talk, 0418 226 576.
Dog.
Peter Martin wants dog. He's got a coffee waiting for him on the outside. We'll make that decision based on your votes at about 5 to 10. Budget week, everybody. We heard a bit of this.
We are creating opportunities for job seekers, young and old. We are caring for our most vulnerable, and we are keeping the country safe and secure. This is a budget for small business people who want to innovate and grow. This is a budget for young people wanting to get a foot in the door. This is a budget for parents juggling the complexities of modern life. This is a budget as much for the miners of the Pilbara as it is for the farmers in the Mallee. It is as much for a family in Brisbane as it is for a start-up business in Adelaide.
However, Sinclair Davidson, was it a budget for the Australian economy?
No, it was certainly a budget for many of the Liberal Party support groups, and they did very well out of it, and I suppose good on them. Good on the Liberals realising they have to get re-elected, but did they actually do the right thing for the economy? No, not at all.
Peter Martin, what would that right thing have been, do you think?
It should have been more like their first budget, to tell you the truth. The problems of sort of budgetary management are not short-term. The problems are long-term. The problems are getting the deficit down long-term. The first budget had great measures in it, ones I fully supported. The chief one. Don't laugh. No. Well, I was. If you read, what I wrote, what was in the paper the morning after, you would have seen. I thought the idea of indexing pensions by consumer price index rather than wages was brilliant way of getting things down. I can't see why pensioners should go to the top of the queue for getting increases in GDP when wage earners don't. They have to have enterprise bargains. They have to justify why they should get money rather than someone else. I thought that was all good. There's nothing like that this time. There's nothing which will assist in getting the budget in order long term. They've given up on that. As Sinclair said, they've got their own reasons. They've got people to support. They've got trading to support. But no, there's nothing in terms of getting the budget back in balance. As for the economy, probably it's not too bad because for political reasons, they're weak on getting the budget back in order. And given the state of the economy, that's probably not a bad idea right now either.
And Lauren Rosewarne, it's been characterised as this tradies and ladies budget, which, hey, look, it's a perfectly good handle.
Yeah,
right.
Not if you're both.
Yeah, there's
not if you're both.
Nice point, Mr. Barton. Nice point.
Yeah, there's assonance. I like a policy that has assonance in it. Assonance. Yeah, it's tricky. I think it's appealing to tradies is really appealing to that demographic of swinging voters and the perception that you will appeal to someone with the idea that you're getting a immediate chunk of cash. It cashes in, I think, though, on Australians' lack of understanding of the taxation system, which I find really interesting. It's like whenever my mother says to me, oh, don't worry about that expense, you can write it off. Now, this idea of writing something off as though you're suddenly getting a check back for $20,000.
Oh, it comes back to you. Yeah.
It highlights that people don't really understand the and that's why they're rushing off to Harvey Norman this morning to start buying coffee machines and computers.
You report that there's a sign outside Harvey Norman.
Oh.
It seems
that
like
was
it's
me. There was me.
Yes.
There's a big sign outside Harvey Norman saying that it hasn't yet come in, and you need to think carefully and look and wait for the legislation and what have
got
you.
to pass the Senate. And all
Yes,
that.
yes. I was so tempted to actually photograph it, except it was on the roller door, and every time I stood in front to take a photograph, the door opened. So I haven't got a photograph, but
Next
it
week
is
in
there.
Sigley,
Which is a sign.
Davison confronts technology.
Which is a sign because people are rushing in to buy their computers and don't need to see the sign.
The other side of this, Peter Martin, and you start your piece in the FX papers today with the line, "What kind of idiot labels mothers routers?" which is attention grabbing.
Well, the budget wasn't so bad. I mean, it was designed not to be bad. They had this perfect sort of, they'd offended hardly anyone. They've done a very good package on pensions, nothing on super, let's leave that aside. Very good package on childcare. And, they were going to pay for it by adjusting parental leave payments. That was, I don't agree with it, it's justifiable. And that was fine. And then Mother's Day, Mother's Day, at this very time, no, it was an hour before, a week ago, on Mother's Day, Laurie Oakes says to Joe Hockey, well, you're getting rid of double dipping, as you call it. This is basically fraud, isn't it? And Joe Hockey said, yes, it is, on Mother's Day. All of the work they put in the budget, 6 people on that expenditure review committee, 6 months, all of the work they've done. God, what are people talking about? Not only on the day after, but during the budget itself and ever since on the budget. It
stole
wasn't
the
very
narrative,
bright.
did it
Not Joe
Sorry.
Hockey's greatest moment, I have to say. It's a brain fade. Now, he did something very similar a few weeks before when he referred to
Mother's Day,
multinational
sorry.
corporations as thieves, where more or less they're doing the same thing. They're obeying the law of the land. They're responding to the incentives as they have been structured. But of course, nobody cares about multinationals. But you can't go around or saying yes to the question is, are mums frauds? I mean, it is really, really not a good look.
We love mothers. We love mothers. We hate Starbucks. We hate Google. So that we
Someone said,
Oh, okay.
next they'll be killing dogs.
The government has got banned.
Pistol and Boo. Yeah.
We're coming back to Crystal and Boo later, but this, Lauren Rosewell, this is a thing here. That the government, I mean, Scott Morrison had the thing set up on childcare. The announcement was well received. This was perceived to be good policy. The winding back of PPL, yes, that was kind of an acceptable compromise. We could see the necessity to make that saving. And then this government's sort of unerring instinct to screw the pooch on the politics, basically.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the human error factor in the sense that once
We
you let
need to
these
put
people
that in.
talk,
Hockey, yeah,
well,
right.
once these people are let loose in front of a microphone, things like this will happen. And I think, this government's been beleaguered by the fear that they're bad with women. I think this is a good example where getting away from that, may as well resign yourself to it. Be the party that's bad for women. Be that way. You hate mothers. Be that way.
Somebody, I think, wrote that it was the sort of sentiment and line that could have come out, or sounded good within the all-male confines of the Razor Gang, which would have decided on all these
Well, I
policy elements.
don't know. I mean, some of the Razor Gang's own wives have been doing this themselves.
Indeed.
And look, good on them. That's fine. I mean, you take advantage of everything you can, but you
Well,
don't go around saying
it's-
people are fraudulent.
It's not a double dip. It's not a rort. It's not fraudulent. It's the specific intent of
And
the
taking
program.
advantage of the policy that was actually given. It's the same as tax minimisation and calling them as thieves. It's not quite the same thing. It just plays well in the landscape of people who have downward envy.
No, I actually think it's quite different because tax minimisation is taking advantage of the law in a way that the law may not have intended. I mean, it's arguable whether the law intended it or not. Here, the law clearly intended it. You can read the explanation of the bill. You can read the Fair Work Ombudsman Act. It was always just meant to be a top-up. You're always meant to be able to, through giving up wages, through enterprise bargaining, whether you're a public servant, whether you weren't a public servant, you're able to get your employer to offer you something, and if you fitted the income limit, there'd also be this public scheme. That was always the intent. There's nothing. Tax minimisation is at times stretching the law to its limit. Here, this was actually
Very
fulfilling
comfortably
the exact
within it.
intent of the
Yes.
law.
outside,
As Josh Frydenberg and
amply
Matthias Cormann's
demonstrated,
family
yes.
will have seen.
outsiders here on Sunday. For Sinclair Davidson, Peter Martin, and Lauren Rosewarne. And not only last week did we hear from Joe Hockey, we heard from this man. Yeah, we did. No, this guy here.
That's what we should have heard.
Yeah, it's what Bill Shorten sounds like when he's got no volume. No, we're not going to hear from Bill Shorten. Never mind.
Probably just as well. Can I talk to you about...
We're
about
making there an incisive commentary on the opposition
No,
leader's budget reply.
Can I make a point about Bill Shorten's budget in reply speech? Is what we would have heard then, which is the presentation. Compare Joe Hockey's presentation, and Hockey had had a bad few days. Compare Hockey's presentation to Shorten's presentation. Hockey knows how to read a speech as if he wrote it, and I think he did write it. And he spoke as you would want. You know, I've been to broadcasting courses with the greats, with Arch McCurdy, and I've learned how to say things as if you mean them. Shorten hasn't. So Shorten's speech was well enough written, but the delivery was appalling. You know, he's breaking sentences in the wrong place. Clearly hadn't written it, and
the words were clearly perhaps not his.
Not his.
Implication as well.
Yeah, well, I think so, because if he had written it, he would know what it said, and you know, would convey the meaning. And it's sort of the way he says things, and I was having to divide my mind into two. One, yeah, this is an okay speech. The other, who's this guy delivering it? I'm very sorry.
His name's Bill Shorten, apparently.
We just have no audio of you.
But aren't we being a little bit harsh? I mean, the opposition leader is always on a hiding to nothing,
Yes.
more or less. He's always under the pump.
And he did come out with some detail, which is rare in that speech.
Yes. So I think it's far more important that Mr. Hockey actually delivers a good speech than the opposition leader.
Being the treasurer.
Yes. So you know, so yes, it's you know, he didn't give a good speech, but at the same time, you don't want to be overly critical. Very few people would have actually watched it or seen it or thought about it.
I have great news. Here is Mr. Shorten.
Last year's budget cut $6,000 from families working hard to make ends meet. Those cuts are still in this budget, and Labor will never support them. Last year's budget cut university funding by 20% and ended students with higher fees and bigger debt. This unfairness is still in the budget, and I can promise you this, Christopher Pyne, Labor will vote against $100,000 degrees every time you bring them to this parliament.
Lauren, what did
See, there you go. There you go, right there, Jonathan. Labor will vote against. Labor will vote. Sorry, Labor will vote. Sorry, Lauren. Labor will vote against.
Speak over the woman.
$100,000 degrees. That's not how you read that. Labor will vote against $100,000 degrees. You did not put the pause there. Sorry.
Lauren, what did you make of the comparison?
Oh, well, as Sinclair said, he had detail in there, and my favourite detail was that the key to Australia's future success is coding. We're all going to learn coding at school. Forget that there are no teachers to teach the coding. Doesn't matter. Kids now, that's the problem with the education system, lack of skills in coding. Coding, able to code, you can write your own ticket to your future success.
I mean, it's part of me that feels instinctively like a good idea.
Really?
Because it's so modern.
But this is the same as 3 years ago when we were all going to learn an Asian language as well. Who's going to teach us?
We're all going to get laptops.
Laptops?
Right. My laptops come with computers already that are being coded by somebody else that you pay money for. It's not.
But it's also very responsive to a current market situation,
Yes.
as opposed to saying, well, we're going to teach coding, hang on, to 12-year-olds. Tell me when they graduate. Well, I'm not really sure what the incentive is, but it sounds good. Coding is the future.
Here endeth part one, and we don't know whether we're going to get an old moondog or whether we're going to get continued talk.